Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to the Housing and Social Wellbeing Committee today of the 2nd of November. I'd first like to introduce our top table. At the very far left of me, we have Claire Mailer, the Strategic Lead Transformation and something else. Strategic Planning. I feel kind of like a trolley quiz dummy with that one there. That's okay. Next up we have the Vice Convener Councillor Sheila McCall. Then we have the Executive Director of Communities, Barbara Renton. And also to my right, this week we have Kirsten Molly as our Committee Services member. Can I remind councillors that if you want to, who are on virtually, to use the chat functions if you wish to draw my attention to anything, and those in the chamber, you can raise your hands and I'll try and keep an eye out for you talking. Before we move on to the main business of the committee, I'd like to take the opportunity to highlight that I think all of you will be aware that our housing team recently won a national award, and we have teed up a short 5-minute video about the homelessness service that the council runs, a bit about its history and background and what it's achieved through time. And after we've had this, we'll go to, I'll make a comment and I'll go to comments from members as well.
Home First, Rapid Rehousing Transition Plan. Perth and Kinross Council was in a unique and strong position in 2017-18 when the Homelessness and Rough Sleeping Action Group presented its recommendations to the Scottish Government. We had already transformed our service over a number of years by introducing a Home First approach, significantly reducing our temporary accommodation portfolio, implementing a B&B reduction plan, reorganising the homelessness and allocations functions into one team, and implementing our own rapid rehousing system. We had also established a successful range of private sector access initiatives and a long-standing common housing register in partnership with our local housing associations. Around 1,200 households are rehoused through our common housing register each year, and we have assisted nearly 2,500 households to access good quality, affordable accommodation in the private rented sector since 2009. Because the Home First approach had already been introduced in Perth and Kinross, the requirement to develop a rapid rehousing transition plan presented us with a different challenge. We had already implemented a program of transformational change through the development of our Home First model, so we focused our RRTP on ways in which we intended to further develop this model based on identified key challenges. Here is how we have performed set against some of our key challenges. Key challenge: homelessness presentations. Between 2017-18 and 2021-22, we experienced a reduction in presentations of around 39%, thanks to our Home First approach and the implementation of our Rapid Rehousing Transition Plan. Reducing youth homelessness is a key priority for Perth and Kinross Council, and we have invested substantial resources in this area. As a result of this commitment, we have seen a reduction in homeless presentations from young people aged 16 to 25 of around 28% since 2018. Key challenge: settled accommodation, providing furnishings and other goods required to make a property a home. During 2021-22, we spent almost £105,000 providing furnishings, appliances and floor coverings for homeless people rehoused through our Home First approach, helping to sustain tenancies. This was made up of £75,000 from our Scottish Government RRTP funding and £30,000 from Perth and Kinross Council budgets. One of our service users said,
"I'm very pleased with the accommodation and how you managed to secure somewhere for me to stay on such short notice."
Key challenge: temporary accommodation. During 2021-22, we maintained a reduced portfolio of temporary accommodation and had the lowest prevalence of households in temporary accommodation in Scotland, at 43 per 100,000 of population, and the shortest length of stay nationally. We have reduced the number of households in temporary accommodation by 89% since 2012.
I avoided going into a hostel or B&B with my children, which I was very happy about.
Key challenge: better understanding of the local homelessness context and the role of our partners. Substantial progress has been made through a number of initiatives that has made us better informed about our local context and the contribution that our partners can make to preventing homelessness. For example, a homelessness research project was commissioned to look at homelessness and health, youth homelessness and rough sleeping in a local context. Findings from the research have been progressed through various new initiatives as detailed in our Rapid Rehousing Transition Plan. Next steps. The COVID-19 pandemic has meant that the past 2 years have been extremely challenging, and the cost of living crisis means we will face more challenges in the future. However, we remain in a good position to be able to deal with these challenges, and will focus on continue with our enhanced homelessness prevention and tenancy sustainment activity. Work with partners including CAB and SCARF to ensure people can access information, advice and assistance around fuel poverty, income maximization and other sources of support. Proactively rehouse people into more affordable accommodation where required using our rapid rehousing approach. Offer a range of financial supports to tenants in all sectors affected by cost of living pressures through Tenancy Sustainment Fund, Financial Insecurity Fund, Homelessness Prevention Fund and Property Ready Fund. Home First, which has been recognized as a sector-leading service nationally, continues to be our commitment to people facing homelessness in Perth and Kinross. Through our Rapid Rehousing Transition Plan, we will continue to reduce the duration, stigmas, costs and experiences of homelessness for people in Perth and Kinross.
So I hope that brought all members of the committee up to speed on the homelessness service. You know, our housing team went down to Glasgow to the awards, this Excellence in Delivering Homelessness Service category award. To me, is much deserved. You know, it's a team that have worked enormously hard over the last 5-6 years to introduce this service and to get our homelessness down to as low as it can. I'm not sure we'll recognise all our staff in that picture. They're so well dressed up and looking so glamorous. Some of them may not be recognisable to us. Our Home First approach has a significantly reduced homelessness presentations in Perth and Kinross, and we now have the lowest number of people living in temporary accommodation in Scotland by population. I'm sure you'd like to join me in congratulating the staff involved in the success and for the fantastic work they continue to do for the homelessness service. Their efforts are making a huge positive difference to the lives of so many people, and this is a national recognition well deserved. I'd like to first call on my Vice Convener to also comment.
Thank you, Convener. Slight variation in order, I think. Bring this a bit closer. Yes, for those of you who are longer serving, you know this was introduced in 2017. I think when Dave Dugan, who's now an MP but was convener of housing at the time, I think he championed some of that through his term here, which is very good. I think, you know, just some statistics that is very impressive. You know, first of all, Home First is the only example of fully developed rapid rehousing model being delivered in the whole of Scotland, hence the reason for the award. And, you know, for a good example is the number of people assessed as homeless and waiting for an offer of permanent accommodation has been reduced by 89%. That's a pretty significant number. And I think for anybody who gets visitors to Perth and Kinross, one of the things that I get comment on from, you know, visitors, particularly from London, is that they don't see any rough sleepers. And this model has pretty much eliminated rough sleeper instances, which I think everybody who's been involved in housing and communities and, you know, over the past several years deserves credit for it. So I would fully support and endorse the comments of the convener in congratulating the housing team and the Home First team in particular. And I think it's a great achievement for the team itself, but for everybody involved across Perth and Kinross Council. Thank you.
You know, as convener at this time, you know, I just happen to be sitting in the seat when this award is given. You know, I was on the committee for the last 5 years and watched the homelessness service go better. But on the committee today, we also have 2 former conveners of this committee who also drove this work forward. And I'd first like to ask Councillor Bob Braun to comment, please.
Thank you, convener. Over the last 5 years, we've all seen the statistics showing the success of Home First, all well below the Scottish average for tackling homelessness. That success has created a standard for all other local authorities to follow and work to, such that our officers have been asked on occasions to give advice and guidance. This award is not only recognition of achievement, but also of the work that has been done to get to where we are today. A programme such as Home First does not happen overnight. As with you, convener, I would like to add my congratulations and thanks to all, to Claire, who was head of housing in my day, which is easy to remember, to Elaine, who's quietly sitting at the back, to all the officers we've seen who have played a part in creating Home First and maintaining its success today. And I think also congratulations to you, Barbara, as Director of Communities, because if it hadn't worked out, you would have taken the blame as well. So you deserve the praise. When I was convener, I think, and I think when I was vice convener actually with Councillor Barrett, I used the phrase once that no one needs to be homeless in Perth and Kinross, and I think that was a phrase well said by me for a change. It wasn't said publicly, unfortunately, but there we are. And I'm sure that those individuals and families that have benefited from Home First would agree that this award was well deserved. The only real surprise, convener, is that it's taken so long to get it. Thank you.
Councillor Peter Barrett.
Thank you, convener. I want to offer my sincere and heartfelt congratulations to the team on winning the Excellence in Delivering Homelessness Services award at the Scottish Housing Awards. I think to echo what Bob just said, if there's one thing that the team could do better at, then it would be applying for awards, and this recognition is long overdue, and appreciate that the team have been far too busy actually implementing and delivering to get the icing on the cake. Convener, I go back long enough to remember when our homeless services were not we're not the envy of every local authority in Scotland, and to when we were rightly criticised for our allocations policy not giving sufficient priority to people made homeless, when the stigma associated with homelessness permeated elected members whose interests lay in the longer term tenants progressing to back and front door properties, and the dark days when we didn't spend all of our housing allocation grant to build new houses and couldn't meet targets for the expansion of homelessness priority need. And I think it is a testament to the commitment and professionalism of the team and the challenge that they presented, that they weren't afraid to confront elected members with, in which they consistently put to councillors of all stripes on the need to tackle homelessness. And this is going to be a bit embarrassing for some, convener, but I vividly remember my first encounter with Claire Mailer. I met her in St Meadows with an infant on her hip and a bare toddler running around the kitchen. But even with her arms full, Claire speared me on what priority did I give to tackling homelessness, and I suspect that I was less convincing in my response. However, fortunately, I did manage to get elected. And I'm really grateful for the continued challenge that officers have consistently put to me over that period. Convener, when I first became housing convener in 2007, I said that tackling homelessness was my top priority, but it was the team who delivered on that, I think with 3 revisions to the allocations policy before it was fit for adoption by our registered social landlord partners. The introduction of the rent bond guarantee scheme, the expansion of that, PKC lets, expansion of access to the private rented sector and improving standards there as well. Improvements to the homeless prevention activities, mediation, working with families and schools and young people that we've heard about, targeted interventions to support victims of domestic abuse, and funding for frontline staff to resolve immediate crises which would lead to homelessness. I also remember being told in no uncertain terms by Elaine Ritchie not to ask for detailed reports on how that money was being spent, and that was advice that I followed religiously. We've continued with massively improving the strategic housing investment plan, more of which we'll get later on, and the new affordable housing supply planning, buybacks and the use of council tax for affordable housing monies to support new builds and RSLs, and as well as award-winning efforts to bring empty homes back into use. So, Convener, this award is absolutely no fluke, and neither is the success of Homes First. And as I said, the team thoroughly merit the recognition.
Councillor Leishman.
Thank you, Convener, and I'd like to add to your and Councillors McCall, Braun and Barrett's comments congratulating our dedicated housing and wider communities teams. At our last committee meeting, I spoke about the excellent work done in tackling homelessness in Perth and Kinross. As we know, our council's Home First approach to tackling homelessness was adopted with the aim of providing a direct route for homeless people into settled accommodation, therefore reducing the need for temporary accommodation and minimising the duration, impact, stigma and the cost of homelessness. And I was delighted to see that invaluable work recognised with the prestigious Chartered Institute of Housing Award for their Home First approach. Congratulations to everyone involved in the team and also to the previous administration. Thank you.
Is anybody else wishing to comment at this time? Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much. There's not really much I can say. This has been ongoing for years, and it is wonderful work. And the good thing is it's been backed by, as Councillor Barrett said, people from all political groups. And so I congratulate the team, both past and present, conveners past and present, everybody for driving this forward. My only fear is that this service will never not be needed, and I think in the upcoming period it will maybe be needed even more than it is. So I'm sure that the team and elected members will rise to the challenge, but we're certainly not out of the woods yet, and I think that the next period will be harder than even what's gone before. Thanks.
We'll close this off with a comment from the Executive Director.
Thank you, Convener. Many thanks to you all for your kind comments, and we will ensure that these are conveyed back to all of the team. I remain inordinately proud of all of the staff involved, not just in the homelessness service, but all of housing and across communities as well. But I would want to pay particular thanks to Claire Mailer, Elaine Ritchie and Martin Smith for their drive and commitment to ensuring that we have the best practice in homelessness in Scotland and possibly beyond. Claire has described to me that how she first started the discussions with the team about addressing the challenges of homelessness, to be told, "Are you mad?" Clearly, yes, but she managed to engage everybody else in the madness as well. And for that, I cannot say thank you enough to everyone. But in true housing style, everybody rolled up their sleeves and got on with it. And that's how we are in the position to have received this reward over the last week. At the heart of the change was the fact that they do what they always do within the team, put their feet in the shoes of those who need the service, walk in them, and then that remains the focus. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you very much. Kirsten has reminded me that we need to formally take roll call before we move forward with this meeting, so we'll do that next.
Thank you. So we have apologies this morning from Councillor Frampton with Councillor Lane substituting, and an apology from Bailey McLaren. So I'm just going to confirm who we have in the chambers this morning. We have Bailey Ahern, Councillor Parrott, Councillor Braun, Councillor Donaldson, Councillor Lane, Councillor Leishman, Councillor McPherson, Councillor McCall, Councillor McEwen and Councillor Smith. For those online, when I call out your name, can you please confirm you're present? Bailey Brock.
Present.
Councillor Chan.
Present.
Councillor James.
Yep, present, Kirsten. Thank you.
And Councillor Welch.
Present.
Thank you. All members are present, convener.
Thank you very much. Those with a sharp eye, and Councillor Barrett. Thank you. Those with a sharp eye and who normally come to this committee will realise that our agenda doesn't contain items today from the police or fire service, which is normal routine for this service. The dates for this committee meeting that were approved by full council are about 2 weeks earlier than they would have otherwise normally been, and that is actually, we were advised by the police and fire service that they wouldn't have time to finalise and get approved their stats for the second quarter to present at this meeting, and they will be happy to present both the second and third quarter at our January meeting moving forward. So I hope that helps with that. Great comment from Councillor Ahern.
Thank you very much, convener. Yeah, I just would like to make a comment on the importance of the police presence at these meetings, not just to update us on the annual report, but to update us about what's going on locally. And we're all aware this time of year the pressures the police are under, and we're all aware of what happened in Kirkton in Dundee on Halloween. And the massive police presence that occurred there. What you're probably not aware of is that officers were drawn from across Scotland with specialist resources to attend the riots that occurred there, including from here in Perth and Kinross. And there's still an enhanced presence at the moment. And the Chief Superintendent, Tom Leonard, is now leading up the annual operation that covers the firework displays and covered the Halloween of the weekend. I would like to raise an issue that highlights the importance of them being here. I had cause yesterday to dial 999 for the police to attend an assault on a shopkeeper in Perth. Thankfully, her dog got in between her and the assailant that was in the shop. I actually had to phone 999 twice, once from here and once when I got onto the premises. That assailant left and was followed. My concern and what I wanted to get through to or ask Tom questions was that the police didn't turn up until 4 hours later. Those police turned up on the way back from Dundee at the end of their shift. We are already aware that Police Scotland are dangerously low on police numbers, and with what's coming up at the weekend, what's happened last weekend, there must be a concern of residents and elected members in the chamber here as to the ability to attend 999 calls. So I just wanted to highlight the importance of the police being here in attendance to answer those sort of questions. Thank you, convener.
I don't disagree with the member that it's ultimately important for the police and fire service to be here. It was at their instigation that they wouldn't be able to bring their statistics to this meeting that were approved, and it was at their instigation that they were removed from the committee. I am in discussions with both the police and fire service to how and what they present to this committee, because I do feel that there is an enormous amount of work they do in our communities and in conjunction with the council that actually doesn't see the light of day and doesn't get highlighted. and I'd like to going forward with this committee, have a position where those activities are highlighted. And that may mean that we restructure how the statistics are brought to us or not, but these are discussions that are in their early stages at this time. But we will take forward these issues.
Thank you, and I agree with everything you've just said. As well as highlighting the faults or the issues, we need to highlight the success they do in the communities.
Councillor Braun.
Thanks, Convener. A question and a comment, if I may. A question. I know you mentioned that the next committee was to catch up on the reports, and it's all because of clashing of dates. Are our future committees in line with their reports as we go along?
I have seen a draft of the future committees, and we have sent an email to both the Fire and Police Service with the dates that have been currently suggested, and asked them to comment on whether those dates fit. And that'll feed into whether those dates can then be approved by council. If they don't fit, then I will then go back to the deputy leader of the council and get those dates adjusted so that they do fit.
If I may then just add a comment, if obviously the fire service had been here, I would have thanked them personally. But as you know, there was a serious incident in Blairgowrie just a few nights ago, which escalated from a Category 2 to a Category 3 incident at a small laundry, Blair Laundry. This was a major incident because it's surrounded by residential housing. And obviously chemicals in place, which did start to explode, as we've seen on various video footage. I believe there were 6 tenders in attendance at the time, including volunteer fighters, I think from Kirkmichael and maybe another station, but certainly from Kirkmichael, which is how we all knew about it, as they went past us with blues and tone sirens on. This was a major incident, and I wanted to thank the firefighters for containing the fire in that one building with residences around. I think it's important to mention the volunteer firefighters because they are all trained professionals and they take the same risks as the full-time firefighters. So my thanks to them for their professionalism in containing the fire and ensuring there was no spread to people's residences. I'd also take the opportunity to thank the local people who opened their doors to the first responders to offer them coffee and tea and biscuits and a comfort break if they needed it. And finally, my thanks to Scott McGregor, who's chair of the local community council, for turning up on the site and preparing the resilience team to step in if it was needed. Thankfully it wasn't, but the team was ready on alert to stand in and help people if necessary. So overall, my thanks to all for a major incident which was contained in that one building. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Councillor Bonner. I think you're right. We sit in community councils and we talk about resilience, and the group talk about what they've got set up, what they've got ready to go, and it's not until it's actually needed by our communities do we actually see the full value and how important it is to have these things in place. And it's a good example of the community's work that does engage with the emergency services. So thank you for that. Do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Barrett.
Thanks, Convener. I don't have a declaration of interest, but I did have a comment on the.
Yes, I'm happy for you to comment, yes.
Thanks very much. When we were discussing the scheme of delegation for the council, I'd made comments about it was really important that the police and fire services continued to be scrutinised at this committee and not scrutiny, and so I'm grateful that that's going to continue. But I do think that we need to kind of refresh how we conduct scrutiny of the police and fire services in this committee. I think there is far too much emphasis on operational ward matters and not on local policing priorities. And I think that if you're going to have discussions with the police about how or what the future shape of scrutiny is, it might be useful to broaden that out amongst members of this committee to see if we can find a better, perhaps less time-consuming way of doing that. we do have the opportunity, our members do have the opportunity that we had yesterday at the police drop-in to raise, any ward or operational issues. That's on a monthly basis. So those sorts of things don't actually have to wait, a quarter or any period of time in order to be, brought to the police attention. And we've all got, our local sergeants' email addresses as well. So I think if there is going to be a discussion about, how we do this in future, we really appreciate the opportunity to input into that. So
I think that's well said, and that's exactly the process that I have in mind. Obviously, I'll take initial discussions with both the fire and police service to begin with, but then the expansion of that I would take to other members on this committee to ensure that it meets the demands of what we think we want. But I think you're right. I think that the committee after committee looking at the minutiae of green and red arrows, although that has its uses, it has a very limited use, and I think we can do better than that. And I think that the initial conversations I've had with Tom Leonard, that he feels that there are other and better things that the committee's time could be used for to describe the activities and the communities work that these services do. So thank you, and thank you everybody for your comments on this. Since there was no declarations of interest, do we agree the minutes of the previous meeting? Agreed. There's the outstanding business statement. Does anybody have any comments on that? Right, so then we'll move on to item 7 on the agenda, and I'll ask Vice Convener Welsh if you will take this forward, please.
Thank you, Convener. Can I ask Lee Haxton, the Community Planning Team Leader, to introduce the report, please?
Apologies, I'll do it from behind. Good morning, councillors. This is the most recent update on Community Planning Partnership business and covers the activity from the period of the last committee on 7th of September. The report is split into 5 main sections and covers the approval of the Local Outcomes Improvement Plan by Board and by full Council in September and the next steps towards governance. Secondly, working towards submitting a bid to pilot a cash first partnership in Perth and Kinross. Thirdly, community planning input into the new regional transport strategy and the implications of public transport and fleet management on climate change. Fourth, the completion of commissioned research around digital participation in Perth and Kinross with some initial findings and proposed actions. And fifth, the development of a training programme for the Community Planning Partnership focusing on awareness raising and understanding the 5 priorities of the Local Outcomes Improvement Plan. I'm happy to take any questions you might have. Thank you.
Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, Convener. Could I ask on the section on page 12 about the cash first partnership? It states that a funding bid will be submitted once the deadline is confirmed. The report was written 21st of October. Can I ask just broad, can you give an indication of the broad timelines on this? How much we have applied for in terms of a funding bid, and also is the intention initially, if we're successful with a pilot project, is going to be in 1 or 2 specific locations with the intention to eventually widen that out across the whole local authority?
Yeah, sorry, just scribbling that down, Councillor Donaldson. The first answer is pretty straightforward. There's no confirmation yet from Scottish Government about the bidding process even opening yet. It was originally intended to be in autumn of this year, hence the work starting. However, it's been delayed probably until early 2023, with the idea that the funding would be awarded and projects could start in the 23-24 financial year. The suggestion is that there will be up to 2 years of financial support available for the partnerships, of which there would be 10 in Scotland, and 6-figure sums for available for each of those partnerships as they're developed. In terms of whether or not it would be piloted in 1 or 2 areas, or whether and then kind of rolled out thereafter, I don't want to second guess what the working group wants to do, but I would imagine it would be a Perth and Kinross wide approach, given that the services are delivered on that basis in the main.
Could I just follow up?
Go ahead.
Just from what you said, there are a number of uncertainties yet. I think it's also important that the funding goes to the appropriate people, especially where there's children in the household. But am I right in saying that if this goes forward, we're talking not just about welfare rights, about housing, about social services, but in fact it's the potential for quite a marked transformation of how we approach this as an area, and might be quite a major restructuring of services.
It certainly has the potential to do that. The idea is that it would involve statutory and third sector bodies that support people that are going through significant financial distress. The information that we've been provided with comes in the main from the Trussell Trust, who've been supporting this process in Scotland, and they've identified probably 4 or 5 key things that any bid will need to demonstrate. And that's a shared vision across all the partners involved, as I say, statutory and third sector, a series of short, medium and long-term actions to deliver that vision, how it will impact on how we currently deliver our services and the processes and practices that are used to try and make it better for the customer and give them a better journey, as it were. How people with lived experience of these issues will be involved in the design and delivery of the work, and what our key kind of learning point that we're trying to test. So there will be a learning partner appointed by Scottish Government, and we'll need to agree with them in advance what it is we are trying to prove as part of the pilot process.
Okay, thanks. Obviously it's early days, but one gets the impression this could be quite substantive.
Thank you, Lee. And a question from Councillor Barrett, please.
Thanks. Councillor Donaldson has basically asked the question that I was intending to ask. To be honest, I'm very disappointed with the response. We are approaching winter. There is a cost of living crisis. People are going to feel the most acute pinch over the coming months. So it seems slightly strange to me that the Scottish Government can't get its act together in order to provide funding to councils when it's going to be most needed, Convener. I wonder whether you can use your best endeavours to get our bid in early and then see whether or not there is something that the Scottish Government may want to do in terms of pilot or early intervention work here. I know that the Council has taken cash first initiatives over the years, and I think we know that these work can provide greater dignity and flexibility to people in how they use their resources, and I don't know whether there is anything that we are planning to do to ensure that there isn't a gap for particular families over the winter period.
Thank you for that, Peter. Yeah, definitely we'll ensure that both officers and administration do the best that we can to advance and speed up these things, because I think the issues that you raise are real, live, and are now and need dealt with now. Thank you.
And can I ask Councillor McPherson to ask his question, please?
Oh, thank you, Vice Convener. As a new councillor, I was just seeking clarification really on item 5.1, where it says that this would mean that someone seeking emergency support, the CFP, will help them to apply for a crisis grant. I'm just wondering, is that grant administered through the benefits agency, and is it a grant and not a loan? Thank you.
I can certainly confirm that it is a grant and not a loan, and the direct support just now comes from Lynn Brady's service within the council. Where the actual budget is held, I think it's also with Lynn, but I couldn't say that for sure.
Thank you, Lee. Are there any more questions or comments, please, on this paper? Councillor Leishman, could you go ahead, please, with your comment?
Sorry, could you move the report, please, Councillor
Okay.
Welsh first? Thank you.
This report covers a number of key areas of work led or supported by the Community Planning Partnership. The partnership has a shared statutory duty to tackle inequality in Perth and Kinross. The Local Outcomes Improvement Plan is the shared strategy for doing so and includes a series of actions which partners can collectively take to make a positive difference. Now that the new plan is in place, the Community Planning Partnership will need to take time to ensure that it has the right governance framework in place to deliver the agreed actions, and the Council will play a central role in that process. The report also sets out what partners are doing in relation to locality work to tackle poverty and inequality, climate change, and to increase digital participation, ensure that Community Planning Partnership staff have a shared understanding of the impact of inequality on people's lives. You're asked to note the report, and I'm happy to move that we do so. Can I ask Councillor McCall to second the report, please?
Thank you, Vice Convener. I'm very pleased to second this report. I think the work of the Community Planning Partnerships and the associated Local Outcome Improvement Plan is essential to tackle the key issues facing our communities, particularly at this time. So I'm happy to move the report, or to second the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCall. Now, do members have any comments in the report? And I see that Councillor Leishman has, so if I can ask you to go ahead, please.
Thank you, Vice Convener, and thanks to Lee Haxton for the report. We have been presented with some terrifying statistics over the last few months. It's estimated that 6,000 households in Perth and Kinross are workless, 13,000 people in Perth and Kinross earn less than the living wage, 24,000 people all over our region are considered to be in lower paid work, 5,155 children in Perth and Kinross, around 1 in 4 live in poverty, and around 12% of school pupils are classified as being among the 40% most deprived in Scotland using the Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation. I wince when I or anyone else label these facts as statistics, because every number or percentage is a person. We have so many of our people scraping for an existence, and we can't call it any more than an existence when someone is dealing with food poverty, fuel poverty, working poverty, or child poverty. All of these different types of poverty go in tandem. The food bank's existence is vital in these times of hardship, but worryingly, it has also become normalised. I fear that the introduction of warm spaces will eventually be accepted by society in the same way. It is well documented that food banks and their usage have grown at an incredible pace since austerity was introduced, and Perth Food Bank in its 8 years has seen the need for their service increase by 10 to 15% year on year. I've never met anyone who chooses or wants to use a food bank, and truthfully, a 3-day emergency food parcel is not going to lift anyone out of the types of poverty I've mentioned. But a cash-first partnership that works on the idea that collectively services work together so that food banks aren't the first or only point of referral is key. Food banks have been relied upon, and we need to come up with solutions that give people the opportunity of maximising their income and giving them the human right that is dignity of choice. The Scottish Government has made funding for 10 cash-first partnerships available. It's a start, but tragically, it's not going to be enough. We should all reflect on why this partnership is so vitally important for our people in Perth and Kinross, and hope that we are one of the 10. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leishman. Can I ask Councillor Lane to speak, please?
Thanks very much, Vice Convener. Yes, my points have been partially brought by Councillor Leishman there, but the important part on is 5.1, where it describes what is hoped that the Cash First partnership will do. Exactly as he says, that often the food banks are the first and only point of contact for people who are suffering from poverty, and then they go away and come back again, and it just becomes a recurring event. If the Cash First Partnership will be able to put these people on the radar, basically, and they will then be able to maximise their income and hopefully provide them with more dignity in the way they can spend it. It will not be perfect for everybody and every person who requires assistance, but I think that we should be pushing forward. I'm glad to hear that, and I've certainly pushed forward along with Councillor McEwen, the convener, and anybody else within this group and officers to try and ensure that PKC are one of the 10 pilot schemes, and hopefully that will help make a difference moving forward for the residents of Perth and Kinross.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Once again, thanks to Lee Haxton, the Community Planning Team Leader, for the report. Can I ask that we note the report, please?
Agreed.
I'll now hand back to the convener, who is going to take the remaining items on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Welsh. Then we move on to item 6 on the agenda, which is a strategic housing investment plan for 2023 to 2028. Can I have Andy Somm, the Housing Strategy Team Leader, to deliver a presentation on this report? Or somebody different?
Thank you, convener. I'll hand you over to Andy Somm in just a moment, who will deliver a short presentation, but I'll just introduce the item. Ben Wilson, the Planning and Housing Strategy Manager. Delivery of new affordable housing is important to achieving national objectives in the Scottish Government strategy, and also local priorities set out in the draft corporate plan and local outcomes improvement plan, particularly tackling poverty, but also climate change and supporting the most vulnerable people. New affordable housing is also at the heart of the Council's local housing strategy, which covers a 5-year period. You will receive the next local housing strategy at a committee meeting early in 2023. That's currently with Scottish Government. In the meantime, we're reporting the annual update of the Strategic Housing Investment Plan, which is the key tool for the Council's activity, both in relation to its own new build affordable housing programme, but also as it's the Council's role as Strategic Housing Authority to coordinate investment from the Scottish Government to our partners, principally housing associations. So I'll now hand over to Andy Somm, who's leader of the Housing Strategy team, who will give you a short presentation on this year's SHIP.
Okay, hi. Good morning, councillors. My name's Andy Somm. I'm the Housing Strategy Team Leader, and I'm looking to give you a quick overview of the Strategic Housing Investment Plan, its role, some context, and what it aims to deliver, and a breakdown for each housing market area over the period 2023 to 2028. So if we can go on to the next slide. Looking at the role of the SHIP. A Strategic Housing Investment Plan, also known as the SHIP, is an important document which sets out Perth and Kinross Council's strategic investment priorities and for affordable housing over a 5-year period to achieve the priorities and outcomes set out within our current and forthcoming local housing strategy. The national vision for strategy is set by the Scottish Government through Housing to 2040 policy, and this is a programme for the Government and makes clear that we are committed to assisting in the delivery of the 110,000 affordable homes target by 2032. So the SHIP is a key document for identifying the proposed strategic housing projects which require affordable housing supply programme funding support. And through this SHIP, this will include new build homes, buybacks, remodelling and regeneration opportunities that we consider to be a strategic priority. The SHIP is an operational rather than policy document, and it reflects on the housing policies and the outcomes set out in our local housing strategy. It reinforces our role as the strategic housing authority. It informs the Scottish Government of investment decisions, and it informs the preparation of a strategic local programme agreement by the Scottish Government that sets out a planned affordable housing programme across Perth and Kinross for the year. So the SHIP is reviewed annually by Perth and Kinross Council. If we can go on to the next slide. The context of the SHIP. The SHIP will meet the aims of housing to 2040 by providing more homes at the heart of great places, providing a range of housing options that people can easily access, afford and keep. It will deliver housing for people with varying needs, and it will be delivering quality homes with affordable warmth, zero emissions and smart technology. The SHIP aligns with the local housing strategy by demonstrating that our investment priorities are identified within the programme and are consistent with what we have outlined in the strategy and how the SHIP priorities contribute to the delivery of these outcomes. It confirms the methodology we use to prioritise projects, that could be seen in Appendix 3, and it details on how Perth and Kinross Council and our housing association partners, resources and other funding are supporting the delivery of affordable housing within Perth and Kinross. It also provides a detail of the progress towards our delivery of our affordable housing supply programme across all tenures, and that's by completions that could be seen through Appendix 1. It provides targets for wheelchair accessible housing in all areas, and it also confirms how our strategic housing priorities are aligned and are consistent with the rapid rehousing transition plan priorities. It also details on how our empty home services and actions to bring homes back into use, and it details how council tax on second homes and empty homes and developer contributions have been used to assist affordable housing. And it also confirms the level of consultation we've had in developing the programme, and it incorporates the Perth and Kinross Council offer, where people are at the heart of everything we do, and Perth and Kinross will be a better, greener and fairer place for people to live, learn, work, play and visit. We can go on to slide 4, the next slide please. This is the delivery. So this shows a breakdown of the proposed annual and total affordable housing completions over the 5-year period between Perth and Kinross Council and our partners. Through this and our partners, we're looking to deliver 1,435 affordable homes within the 5 years. 34% of that, or 485 of the affordable homes, would be complete by Perth and Kinross Council, with about 66%, 950, delivered by our partners. This would result in average about 287 affordable homes per year through the use of £84 million from the Scottish Government and funding from council tax second homes, developer contributions, and alongside continued private and prudential borrowing from the council and its partners. If we could move to slide 5, please. The housing market area breakdown. The SHIP proposes that we're going to continue to deliver or push towards a 10% target in terms of wheelchair accessible housing on all sites. Through the affordable housing project delivery from this SHIP, Perth and Kinross Council and its partners aim to deliver the following in each housing market area. Now, the various housing market areas, this is mainly through buybacks, which is 9% of the programme, and that's in all areas. Through that, the Perth housing market area is 56%. Strathern housing market area, we're looking at about 11% of the projects. Strathmore housing market area, 13%. Kinross, 4%, and Highland housing market area is 7%. If we can go on the next slide, please. This SHIP aims to continue to deliver affordable housing in all areas of Perth and Kinross Council through a mix of affordable housing tenures. It also reaffirms our continued and good working relationships with the Scottish Government, with planning, with housing, with health and social care partnership, and with our housing association partners and developers. The SHIP links through national and local strategic vision for housing, and through the Housing 2040 commitment will increase housing supply by assisting in the Scottish Government's ambition to deliver 110,000 homes up till the next 10 years, where we're looking at 70% of our programme to be for social rent. The SHIP contributes to Perth and Kinross Council's Corporate Plan 22 to 2027, where we've set a vision where everyone can live life well, free from poverty and inequality, and this could be met through the delivery of affordable housing. If we can move to the last slide. And it's just looking if there's any questions. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Lane for the question.
Thanks. It was just on the buybacks, etc., and the provision of affordable housing. Is it driven or determined by the availability of housing that comes on the market, or by demand? I know that it was only 7% in the Highland area, so I was wondering if demand is the driver or availability.
In terms of buybacks, we've got, I mean, we put about 30 per year.
Sorry, Andy, or provision of affordable housing, thanks.
Or provision. Provision of affordable housing could be, well, I mean, a majority of our provision of affordable housing is met through Section 75 sites in terms of what we've got a 25% provision for. So it is on what we have or what we've got coming in the programme, but we are looking to look at more sites where we can purchase back ourselves, and that would help us in areas like the Highland Market area.
So at the moment it's driven by availability rather than demand?
Availability of sites, yeah.
Elaine Ritchie would like to also comment on your question.
Yeah, in terms of that, it's a bit of both. It is availability and demand. In terms of in the Highland area, it definitely is availability because we've got significant demand, but it's what becomes on the market, the housing market, and whether or not it's within our price range as well. So yeah, it's a bit of both.
Councillor James.
Yeah, thanks, convener. My question, great presentation, by the way, Andrew. The third or second from last slide mentioned areas, Perth being 56%, and it mentioned Strathern, Strathmore, Kinross, Highland. I wondered where Strathtay ward sat within that group, because I know that there's been an awful lot of building works, you know, Bertha Park, Stanley, Lunkerty. So which area does Strathtay come under? Is it part of that 56%? Thank you.
Yes, it would. If you look at, is it Appendix 2 in the report, it provides, what I could potentially provide to you is a map showing all the areas, but I've just put down, obviously, it's looking at there. So Stanley and Bertha Park would come under the Perth housing market area. Yeah.
That'll teach me for reading the report properly then, won't it?
No, it's fine. I can't provide a map.
Sorry.
Map for you. So it's, yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Heard for your two questions.
Thank you very much, convener. Yeah, my first question I was on paragraph 1.7 on page 45, and it's the resource planning assumption amounts. And I just wanted to know, and I know it's an assumption, and I know that it says in there that it's going to be further announcements are made. Are these figures ring fenced? Are they a separate fund from the Scottish Government, and are they likely to change in the next 3 years? I'm not going to look at the other two because it does say there that the guidance only covers a 3-year period.
From financial years 2023-24 to 25-26, that's the guaranteed the amount that we have to spend. The Scottish Government do look for us to go 25% over in terms of projects, and that's something we can. And even in the past years, we have had slippage from other authorities when they're looking at the wider programme that we can get for the delivery of affordable housing. So that's the amounts that we know that we have to spend. As I say, we do try and go 25% over. And that's why there's always room to get additional projects within the programme on our discussions with the Scottish Government. We don't know what's going to happen from 26-27 onwards until obviously the Scottish Government announce it, but that won't be announced till about 2025, I presume. Yeah.
Thank you. And my second question, is on paragraph 3.6 on page 52 with regards to the Gypsy Traveller community. And I know we have the 2 sites which are now come under the housing revenue. I just wondered, do we know what the demand is from the Gypsy Traveller community that aren't resident at those sites, but which do tend to use Perth and Kinross?
Elaine Ritchie.
Thanks, Councillor Hearn. That's a piece of work that we're currently undertaking in terms of looking at the needs assessment. So we're currently doing a lot of work on that to establish the unmet need in terms of our negotiation stopping pilot and also a transient site. So we're doing a lot of work just now on that. So I don't have the information because it's not concluded, but it is a report that we're planning to bring back to committee in the new year.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Braun.
Thanks, Convener. I've got 2 questions. I haven't put it in very well and missed the 2 off. Is that all right to ask 2? Fine. First question relates to paragraph 4.9. We talk about the council aims to increase the scale and pace of delivery of affordable housing. And I'm just wondering, bearing in mind the difficulties in supply chains that we have, is that realistic, the number we're looking at? Because that obviously could get a lot worse as we go along.
I think it's realistic. I think even in the past week or 2, we've had additional sites that's been brought to us. So the sites are there. Our partners, and obviously speaking to a few developers, they're keen on the affordable housing. It kind of provides them a guaranteed element to build affordable housing first on a lot of sites, to open up a lot of sites as well. So I think it's a realistic target that we've set there. So yeah.
Thank you. And the second question, if I may, Convener, regards to rural areas. We've touched on that very briefly, but there's nothing in the report about rural areas. I'm thinking about villages where we get a lot of young people who've grown up in those areas. They want to bring their own families up in those areas, but can't afford housing. Is there a reason why we aren't looking at more rural areas? I mean, more villages? I presume it's the availability of land, but could we not do something there?
We are looking at all areas within Perth and Kinross. The definition of rural housing is through the Scottish Government's sixfold. So there's areas, for example, like Alyth, this class is rural to the Scottish Government, or where we're looking at in regards to remote rural, we are working with a lot of community groups and development trusts to enable affordable housing, for example, in Highland Perthshire, where there is a big drive. So it is something we are looking to do and trying to commit to affordable housing at these sites. So we've got a lot of resources that are that are put towards that area at the moment.
Thank you.
Councillor Barrett.
Thanks, Convener. I just wondered if we could get a bit more information regarding the number of starts that there'll be next year and the number of completions. It looks like next year is going to be a fairly thin year for completions. I wondered whether we are maybe going to try and front load our buyback scheme for next year to compensate before the houses that are started next year and presumably take more than a year to build then feed into future years. But 92 seems to represent a significant dip in terms of the numbers of completions that we've had both recently and for the rest of the SHIP period.
In terms of looking at next financial year, we've got 464 site starts in terms of the projects we're looking to start. Projects do take a bit of time to complete. We do have some projects from 24-25 that we're looking to even land bank this financial year in terms of the programme. So that might provide an opportunity to start out the build. When we look at completions, we look at in terms of the Scottish Government in terms of when a project completes. So there might be a phased completion of, so if let's just say you've got a 60 affordable homes development, 20 affordable homes might be complete in 2023-24, but we don't record that project as being complete until obviously the whole site's complete, and that might be in 2024-25. So that figure will change depending on the outcome of this year. The projects that we do have, there'll be some projects that may slip into next year. There's some projects that might start this year, kind of kind of following on. So it does look like a low number, but I think we'll be more than that. That's just what we're reporting based on what we've got based on the intel at the moment.
So when we actually report on completions in the annual performance report, it's the actual number of completions in the year rather than the number of sites that were completed. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, Convener. I just want to follow on from what Councillor Braun was referring to in terms of rural housing, and I hear what's said about availability of sites. There's also the question of the definition of what is rural. However, one of the things I'd like to ask is, on affordable housing, it's a 25% allocation. What scope would there be in rural areas for that total to be increased to 30 or 33%? I think that's the case in Stirling, and I'm not sure if it applies in any other local authorities. And then I might have a follow-up.
Can I pass that to Ben Wilson? Sorry, here.
You can, Andy. So the 25% is set in the Council's local development plan. The current one is local development plan 2 adopted in 2019. It's not prescribed by law, and therefore, in principle, there is scope in a local development plan review to revisit that percentage. And also, it's possible in principle for a local authority to have different percentage levels in different parts of its area, and indeed there are local authorities in Scotland that have that. The timetable for the preparation of the next local development plan is due to be reported to the Environment, Infrastructure and Economic Development Committee later this month.
Okay, can I thank Mr. Wilson? And clearly it does appear it may take time, that we may have scope flexibilities in local development plan 3. Can I just also ask more generally for the local housing strategy paper that's going to come in January? Will that contain in it a section, or will it be a separate paper on the question of rural housing? I know that assessment needs are being carried out just now. I think there's one due in my own area for Comrie, probably over the next fortnight. But will we be given the information on those assessments, and will there be a specific section on rural housing?
There will be an element on rural housing within the local housing strategy. There'll also be a separate presentation in the committee on rural housing and what we're doing as well. I've got to program that in, and that'll provide you further information in terms of the work that's ongoing and what it holds for the future for us as well.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Convener. Here comes the daft question, being new. Could you just help me just to get an idea that there is obviously some new affordable houses going up in Medvin, where I stay, and what happens to the percentage of people in Medvin, for instance, who are actually looking for a house? Is it an overall strategy? For instance, someone in maybe Perth could come out there. Does that affect all your facts and figures, etc.? How does it work? Thank you.
Elaine Ritchie.
In terms of housing people in the new builds, it goes through our common housing register, and it's based on people applying for housing in the areas that they have selected. I don't know if that's what you were. Does that?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't hear that at all. Sorry.
In terms of housing need, if people are looking to move into new housing, they have to apply for housing through our common housing register, and then we look at their application based on housing need, and it's assessed then in terms of whether or not they would be shortlisted for one of those properties.
Yeah, there we go. It was just to get an idea, because obviously when we talk about rural areas and people are looking for houses, say they are in my particular area, it's just if they go on a list and they don't get them, the reaction can be obviously quite bad. So if someone, for instance, from Mervyn is on the list and they lose out to someone from all over the area, how do I go back to them and explain that to them?
Well, Councillor Smith, I could support you with that, but we've got a common housing register allocation policy, and we're also got quite a lot of legislation in terms of Housing Scotland Act, and it tells you how we allocate, and it's based on housing need. But I could maybe catch up with you out with committee and maybe explain our allocation process if that would be helpful.
That's thank you. I just need to be prepared.
Right, it appears we don't have any more questions, so I will move the paper. This report provides an annual. What was one of this others? Yes, Councillor Brock or Bailey Brock.
Thank you, convener. I think this is playing up in me. One question I want to ask, the strategic housing investment plan, you've identified areas where you're going to pick up housing within the Strathern area. And I'm not sure if you're able to answer on this one or not, but I see you've got listed the former Crieff Primary School. Is that an option that you are looking at?
It's an option we're looking at the moment for various development. Well, I mean, a various type of development. We should have further information. It's worth getting in the programme to see what available money that we can get and put towards that at the present. We should have further clarity on that over the next few months. But I'm aware it's an area within Crieff that we are looking to do something. So it's trying to get the parties involved to make that work. Yeah.
Thank you, that's very helpful, because I'm sure Councillor Donaldson will agree with me. We're always getting asked what's happening with Crieff Primary School, so that gives us a wee bit to go back with. Thank you.
I will now move the paper. This report provides the annual update of the Strategic Housing Investment Plan for the Council's area. The SHIP sets out the planned affordable housing delivery programme for the Council and its partners for the next 5 years. As in previous years, it has been prepared to ensure that the significant planned investment in new affordable housing meets the needs of the community and aligns with the aims of the local housing strategy. The SHIP is submitted to the Scottish Government to inform our agreement with them to fund projects by the Council and its partners. The programme will continue to be developed in response to changing circumstances, and this report seeks to renew delegated authority to officers to do so. You're asked to approve the SHIP submission, its ongoing development, and I'm happy to move that we do so. Councillor McCall, could you second, please?
Thank you, convener. And thank you, officers, for this report. It is particularly welcome that the SHIP aims to expand the availability of social housing via various strands of work, including new housing starts from both Perth and Kinross Council and registered social landlords, complemented by remodelling opportunities in the buyback scheme. The prioritisation of smart technology is very welcome and will offer many tenants the opportunity to live more independently and safely in their own homes. Access to affordable and social housing helps to address inequalities in our communities and offers security of tenure, in particular to those who are amongst our most vulnerable. I'm very pleased to second this report.
Do we have any comments? Councillor Barrett.
Just very briefly to echo the comments of yourself and the Vice Convener, I'm also very pleased to see paragraphs 3.6 and 7 in the report with regard to Gypsy Travellers and the comments made during questions by Elaine Ritchie on the forthcoming report into the negotiated stopping pilot and the options for a permanent Gypsy Traveller transit site, which I think will be essential for the future. Thank you.
Councillor Braun.
Thanks, convener. Just not too long here. So I was going to say, not everyone is able to buy their own property, yet everyone needs that place they can call home, where they feel safe and secure. So we can agree that the demand for affordable housing in whatever form will not diminish. And with the desire to keep people in their homes for as long as possible, the need for properties that can cope with special needs will also increase. Having a home to retreat to contributes much to the sense of health and well-being, safe, secure, warm and energy efficient. The last 5 years saw the delivery of 1,271 affordable homes, averaging 212 per annum. This is an excellent record upon which to build for the future. Convener, I note you have recognised the success in an article in the local press recently. And as this was during the last administration, by definition, your compliment is graciously accepted. We have an ambitious target to deliver 1,500 affordable homes by 2027-28. Certainly the sites listed will support this aim. However, we know it is going to be challenging, especially in these difficult times of rising inflation and inconsistent supply chains. That said, and with the past record in mind and the answers to questions today, if anyone can succeed with this, our housing service can. So no pressure on them then. Finally, convener, no matter who sits in your chair, the important fact here is that 1,271 homes have been brought into play, helping people who need them the most. Thank you.
I don't have any other comments as it stands. But before I move the report for agreement, in the previous administration, we also ran an affordable housing MOG, which allowed officers and committee members to engage regarding the SHIP and the building of housing, etc. Is that something that, going forward, the committee would like to see actioned again? In general, yes. I'll take that forward with committee services and see where we go with that. So I'd be happy to move the paper. Agreed. That concludes our business for today. So thank you very much, everybody.